Ukraine has unveiled a brilliant and innovative three-pronged strategy aimed at ending Russia's war immediately by targeting critical vulnerabilities within Russia and its operations in Ukraine itself. This plan, meticulously crafted by Ukraine's astute strategists and military experts, not only strikes at the heart of Russia's military capabilities, but also dismantles some of the strategic advantages Russia has maintained since the conflict began nearly 4 years ago. The first step in this comprehensive approach, as articulated by Ukraine's defense minister Fedorov, is to permanently close Ukraine's skies to Russian forces, thereby preventing further aerial assaults and creating a safer environment for civilians and critical infrastructure. Fedorov emphasized in a detailed Telegram post that protecting civilians and infrastructure remains the highest priority, with the ambitious goal of detecting 100% of aerial threats in real time and intercepting at least 95% of incoming missiles and drones, a target that requires This intense focus on bolstering air defenses is critical because Russia's use of drones, missiles, and precision-guided bombs has been a primary tool not just for weakening Ukraine's military but also for terrorizing its civilian population and disrupting essential services. For instance, in January alone, Russia launched 91 ballistic missiles, the highest monthly number since the invasion began, alongside a total of 158 missiles, approximately 5,500 guided bombs, and over 6,000 attack drones, all aimed at overwhelming Ukraine's defenses and exhausting its resources. This relentless and sophisticated assault has particularly targeted Ukraine's energy grid, leaving over 1.2 million people without power at one point by the end of January, causing widespread hardship and economic disruption, and has resulted in significant civilian casualties and destruction of vital infrastructure. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, as of January 31, 2026, Russia's attacks have caused 56,550 civilian casualties, including 15,172 deaths and 41,078 injuries. Though these figures represent only confirmed cases and likely undercount the true human. While not all casualties are from airstrikes, these remain the largest contributors, with Russian missiles, drones, and bombs striking Ukrainian cities almost weekly, continuously threatening the safety of millions of people. To counter this, Ukraine is advancing the first step of its plan by developing a multi-layered small air defense system that integrates radar, electronic warfare, and interceptor missiles, and increasing the deployment of interceptors designed to shoot down incoming threats with higher accuracy and efficiency. Organizational changes are underway to support this transition, with Fedorov noting that once the skies are closed, the country can function normally again, restoring a sense of security and stability for citizens and businesses alike. The emphasis on interceptors is significant because many of Russia's attack drones, such as the relatively inexpensive Shahed drones costing around $35,000 each, serve not only to inflict damage, but also to deplete Ukraine's expensive air defense resources. By enhancing its ability to detect and intercept these threats efficiently, Ukraine aims to neutralize one of Russia's most effective tactics, attrition warfare through drone swarms, and lay the groundwork for the subsequent steps in its overall strategy to decisively end the conflict and restore peace and sovereignty to the nation. A more strategic and multifaceted approach for Ukraine in countering Shahed-type drones involves deploying a sophisticated network of advanced air defense systems that rely heavily on the use of cheaper, more efficient interceptor drones designed specifically to neutralize these aerial threats with high precision and minimal collateral damage. This tactic compels Russia into an increasingly unsustainable economic burden, where the financial and material losses incurred from deploying high-cost Shahed drones far exceed any tactical gains achieved on the battlefield. On February 24th, United 24 Media reported that Ukraine's upgraded interceptors have successfully destroyed approximately 30% of incoming Russian projectiles, a significant and commendable feat given the sheer scale and frequency of drone attacks faced by Ukrainian forces. These Ukrainian interceptor drones cost between $3,000 and $5,000 each and can be mass-produced rapidly to meet the high demands of ongoing conflict scenarios, while each destroyed Shahed drone costs Russia roughly $35,000, making this a highly cost-effective defensive tactic that inflicts measurable financial damage on Russia's war effort. This carefully calibrated defense strategy forms a critical part of Ukraine's broader third phase of military operations, which follows a highly successful second phase that was focused on securing Ukraine's airspace with an impressive 95% interception rate, aimed at protecting civilians and troops alike, thereby enabling more effective counterattacks to reclaim lost territory. The second phase was designed to systematically erode Russian military capacity across multiple domains: land, sea, and cyberspace, while being strongly supported by frontline resilience that is widely attributed to the unwavering determination and combat effectiveness of Ukrainian soldiers. For instance, in the contested Donetsk region, Ukrainian forces maintain an extraordinarily high density of 156 soldiers per square kilometer, allowing them to inflict over 200 Russian casualties per square kilometer, thereby demonstrating a clear tactical edge and superior combat effectiveness. Ukrainian official Mikhailo Fedorov emphasizes that by consistently inflicting higher casualty rates than Russia can feasibly replace, Ukraine can steadily erode the Russian military presence and their operational capabilities over time. According to reports, in 2025, Russia captured 4,831 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, but suffered approximately 415,000 casualties in the process, averaging about 86 casualties per square kilometer, a rate that Fedorov aims to double in order to increase the territorial cost. Early data from 2026 already indicates progress towards this goal. Within just 50 days, Russia seized 572 square kilometers, but suffered 1,680 casualties in January alone. About 89.3 casualties per square kilometer, thereby surpassing the casualty rate of the previous year and signaling. This evolving Ukrainian strategy integrates cutting-edge technology, tactical resilience, and attrition warfare principles to effectively counter Russian advances, shift battlefield dynamics decisively, and maintain strategic momentum in a highly complex and fluid combat environment. The increase over 2025 may not be dramatic, but is significant as it marks Ukraine's initial move toward the ambitious target of 200 casualties per square kilometer, which Defense Minister Fedorov sees as a critical benchmark in the ongoing conflict. This figure is vital because it represents the attrition rate Ukraine must impose to effectively halt Russian advances and prevent any further territorial gains by enemy forces. Falling below this threshold, rising casualties still manage to slow Russian progress, creating strategic pressure that impacts their operational tempo, logistics, morale, and overall combat effectiveness. Ukraine's goals reflect a clear understanding of what is required to make Putin's invasion prohibitively costly in terms of manpower, material, and resources, aiming to decisively shift the battlefield dynamics in their favor and erode Russia's ability to sustain prolonged defensive operations. Current indicators suggest Ukraine is successfully pushing Russia into difficult manpower choices, especially as Russian recruitment falters amid growing political, social, and economic pressures at home. Western military analysts, cited by The Telegraph, estimate that Russia has been enlisting fewer soldiers than it loses, with recruitment rates hovering around 35,000 monthly, significantly insufficient to replace the heavy losses suffered on multiple fronts. At first glance, this may appear to contradict Ukraine's estimate of 31,680 Russian troops killed in action during the same period, which would imply recruitment outpaces losses. However, the 30,1680 figure accounts solely for those killed, excluding total casualties that also include wounded, missing, and prisoners of war. When these additional categories are factored in, Russia's monthly casualties rise closer to 40,000, revealing a far harsher attrition rate than initially perceived. Calculating this attrition over the 354.64 square kilometers Russia gained in January 2026 yields about 112.7 casualties per square kilometer, still short of Fedorov's but much closer than previous. If Ukraine continues to improve tactics, leverage technological advantages, and enhance intelligence capabilities throughout 2026, this goal may soon become a realistic and daunting reality that Russia struggles to counter effectively. Artem Belanov, Chief of Staff of Ukraine's Nemesis Battalion, explains that Ukraine aims to expand lethal kill zones, areas heavily defended with drones, artillery, and advanced precision weapons that systematically decimate Russian troops by approximately 25 kilometers in depth. This strategy forces Russian soldiers to traverse 20 to 25 kilometers through these deadly zones before reaching Ukrainian frontline positions, significantly increasing the likelihood of neutralizing enemy forces before they can mount effective attacks. Most Russian troops entering these zones face near certain death, so expanding and intensifying them pushes Ukraine closer to achieving the 200 casualties per square kilometer rate needed to decisively halt enemy advances. Fedorov has shared further strategic insights on Telegram, highlighting Ukraine's focused, multi-layered approach that combines adaptive ground tactics, cutting-edge technology, and meticulous planning aimed at crippling Russian advances while sustaining Ukrainian momentum in this protracted and grueling conflict, underscoring Ukraine's unwavering commitment to defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity amidst severe challenge. Ukraine is implementing a comprehensive set of measures aimed at overhauling its military system, ranging from enhancing procurement processes and completing foundational reforms to revolutionizing training and command structures with a strong emphasis on data utilization and technological integration. This ambitious initiative seeks to not only modernize hardware and tactics, but also to cultivate a more adaptive, responsive, and cyber-capable force able to confront contemporary hybrid warfare challenges. Ukraine's defense minister describes this as a sweeping transformation of the entire military apparatus, one that requires coordinated efforts across multiple government agencies, defense industries, international partners. If successful, this overhaul will yield more efficient military units, smarter data use, and accelerated procurement practices, all of which are expected to significantly increase Russian casualties and degrade their operational capabilities over time. Every casualty inflicted not only diminishes Russian manpower, but also entails the loss of expensive military equipment, such as tanks, artillery, and advanced missile systems, imposing substantial financial and logistical burdens on Russia. This degradation in both human and material resources leads directly to the third phase of Ukraine's multifaceted strategy, which focuses on crippling Russia's economic foundations that sustain its war efforts in the long term. Ukraine has long recognized that as long as Russia maintains access to substantial financial resources, it can replenish frontline forces, increase signing bonuses to attract volunteers and mercenaries, and manufacture missiles, drones, and other sophisticated weapons used against Ukrainian cities and troops. By severing these vital financial lifelines, particularly those fueled by Russia's lucrative oil exports, Ukraine aims to dismantle the economic infrastructure that enables the Kremlin's relentless invasion and prolonged conflict. Central to this effort is targeting Russia's so-called shadow fleet, a covert and largely unregulated fleet of tankers and vessels used to clandestinely sell oil. World, generating billions. Despite the murky details surrounding this fleet's ownership and operations, reports estimate it includes over 1,240 ships, responsible for transporting nearly 70% of Russia's seaborne oil exports, generating an estimated $87 to $100 billion annually. This vast and shadowy fleet has become Russia's economic lifeline since Western sanctions were imposed, with Putin's regime investing heavily in aging tankers and employing complex schemes to evade restrictions. While Ukraine has had some tactical successes in striking shadow fleet vessels, such as the December drone attack on the tanker Kendal in the Mediterranean Sea, the sheer scale of the fleet and Russia's ability to acquire cheap, barely seaworthy tankers complicates eradication efforts. Instead, Ukraine's defense minister Oleksiy Fedorov advocates for intensified international cooperation to disrupt the shadow fleet's operations, involving stronger and more targeted sanctions, coordinated intelligence sharing, strategic maritime interdiction operations, and joint naval patrols with global partners. Although sanctions and blockades have some impact, Russia frequently circumvents them by changing ship flags, registering vessels under flags of convenience, and establishing shell companies that conceal the fleet's true operations and ownership, making it imperative for Ukraine and its allies to continuously adapt and intensify their efforts to choke off this critical source of funding for Russia's. Isolated seizures of shadow fleet vessels often make the headlines, as the Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, notes. But these actions alone are insufficient to halt the entire fleet's operations. RUSI emphasizes that the real solution lies in the collective effort of Western nations to stop enabling the shadow fleet by ceasing the sale of tankers and tightening loopholes that allow Russia to evade sanctions too easily. Greece is singled out as a notable example. Although it officially enforces EU sanctions against Russia, it has also contributed to the growth of Russia's shadow fleet through the sale of vessels. For both Russia and Ukraine, meaningful change will only come if the West unites behind its rhetoric and backs it up with coordinated action. Some positive developments have occurred. For instance, the Group of Seven, J7, has established a shadow fleet task force, which the Nordic Baltic 8 and BATE and other countries have joined, forming a network dedicated to dismantling the shadow fleet. RUSI further suggests that these task forces should involve countries in the South China Sea, where shadow fleet ships operate freely, putting other maritime traffic at risk. In short, a lot more needs to be done. If Ukraine can successfully complete the first two phases of its three-stage plan, it will be able to shift its focus toward collaborating with international partners to dismantle the shadow fleet. This joint campaign of vessel seizures and tightening sanction loopholes could cost Russia billions of dollars in oil revenues, funds the Kremlin won't be able to tax at a time when its budget deficit is projected to triple the official target set for 2026. Every bit of economic damage Ukraine inflicts weakens Putin's war machine. Ultimately, as Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov, explains, the goal is to make the invasion economically as unviable for Russia as it is militarily. Early in the discussion, viewers were encouraged to stay tuned for details on how Ukraine plans to turn this strategy into reality. The key question is, how can a three-stage plan be executed through a three-step implementation process? To conclude his message on Telegram, Fedorov outlined the three critical actions Ukraine must take to realize its ambitious objectives. First, Ukraine needs to strengthen partnerships by fostering mutually beneficial cooperation that will secure record levels of international aid this year, aimed at purchasing drones, ensuring stable funding for the military, and bolstering air defenses and other defense systems. Fedorov notes that combining these efforts with Ukraine's approach to countering the shadow fleet creates a nation that understands its strength lies in reinforcing ties with those opposing Putin's aggression, thereby weakening Russia significantly. The second step focuses on maintaining Ukraine's technological edge over Russia, outpacing the enemy by at least 10 steps in every technological cycle and asserting leadership in the innovation warfare arena. This is an area where Ukraine has excelled remarkably. As National Interest describes it, Ukraine has become a steel porcupine, striking Russia every time Putin orders an assault. Innovation drives nearly every aspect of Ukraine's defense, with approximately 80% of Russian casualties inflicted by unmanned vehicles. Ukraine's Interceptor drone program is now channeling this innovative spirit into air defense, with further advancements expected as new unmanned systems are developed and artificial intelligence is increasingly deployed in ways Russia cannot even envision. Ukraine must master the mathematics of war, meaning that the more data it collects, the more it can harm Russia's capabilities. Through these steps, strengthening alliances, maintaining technological superiority, and leveraging data-driven warfare, Ukraine aims to transform its strategic vision into a tangible and effective campaign against Russian aggression. Delta's eBale system supplies Ukraine with vital battlefield data for informed decisions and strategy. It detects airstrikes in real time, tracks shadow fleet ships, fosters international cooperation against threats, and monitors progress against Russian forces. Supporting Fedorov's second-phase strategy, coordinated efforts like the Lazar Group are already weakening Russian forces. For full insight, watch our video and subscribe to the Military Show. Thank you for watching.